Thank you, and good morning. I see in the name of sustainability we've been edited from 15 to 5, so let me see if I can move this forward. First of all, Mohsen and Ali and everyone at Harvard, yeah, I know it's 15. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this today. As a graduate of this school, I can't think of a more amazing opportunity to advance the process of design by founding this center. I would like to start by just talking about the formal aspects of architecture a little bit. And I know it's obvious, and I know it's embedded in your statements. I know it's very important to you, but I just wanted to say it, that I don't consider, and we don't consider, the formal aspects of design as independent of sustainable research and the process of analysis. That in fact, they are one. And in fact, that one of the reasons why this is so important is because I think we all believe that beauty is embedded as part of the formal approach to analysis and sustainability. That deep analysis does inform form, and that there is a language of performance. I was really interested to hear Renzo Piano speak last night about the importance of beauty in our culture and our society. I think he said at one point that he believes it will save us. And I love that statement by him. I think also that every aspect of making something is informed by analysis. So for us and for you, I would encourage you to push everyone that comes across your intersection of design to improve their product and their contribution to architecture. It can become detail-oriented, and it can become specific, and it can become kind of regimented to the tectonics and technical aspects of design, but it doesn't need to. You sit at an intersection that affords us to look at products and results of design in many different ways. That you can now compare new technologies to compare performance and embedded carbon in different ways. Concrete block versus curtain wall, the quality of light, the nature of daylight, the intersection of the relationships between these systems that yield in products and design, that you can influence manufacturing, you can influence design. In these particular cases, influencing production to get 90% recycled content in aluminum extrusions, which may not mean anything to anyone at first, but when you understand that that is equivalent to a stick of bamboo in terms of embedded carbon, you realize that what we are doing as a practice is amazingly influential in design. The fact that systems in buildings should and need to all work together harmoniously, just like we do as individuals. It's no longer a single approach to solving any problem, that you can unpack all of these systems and look at indigenous models in a way now that affords us to transform courtyards through technology and through program into new expressions of architecture for our future. And we do all of this because it's important for the quality of life. You heard Mohsen talk about the quality of life, and that is the end product of what we do. Everything that I think comes from analysis and a deeper understanding of our work, the purpose of it is to improve the quality of life of everyone that we touch. And so I would encourage you to keep that embedded in your research at all times. Why are you doing this research? Why is it important to understand? And it's not just the physical comfort or physical aspects of it, it's the psychological aspects of it, the social aspects of it. What is it about places or light or air that makes you comfortable or makes you happy in some cases, makes you joyous, the beauty of it. I would encourage you, and I heard Ali speak about this today, that it's not just the new buildings, but the existing buildings. I'm so proud that you're moving into an existing structure and modifying it already to make it positive energy. And for us, that represents 97 to 99% of our building stock in this country. And it's extremely important that we understand how we can leverage that building stock, because it has value way beyond its square footage. Maybe we can even alter or transform the way that we value real estate in this country and hopefully elsewhere. Because it's much more than a square footage calculation. Whoops. It's much more than a square footage calculation. The value of space, the value of buildings is embedded, and you just have, it's like mining for gold. Every single space that you come across has a potential to be saved. And it's the savings that makes it valuable. And if you can transfer those savings to elsewhere or to new buildings, even better. We can now unpack, sorry, this is skipping a bit. We can now unpack cities as we do buildings to look at all systems that come into making places better, healthier, smarter, more intelligent, more beautiful. And we can run analysis to compare programs, to compare buildings, not as individual buildings, but as groups, as networks. So the buildings themselves become systems within the context of the city. I look forward to the tools that Ali and his group will build to help us better understand scenarios that can be run to improve the design of cities, both existing and new cities. Because I think what is missing from our practice mostly are examples that we can use, benchmarks to compare what we talk about performance as being relative to one another. It's one thing for me to say that we're doing a performative building, it's one thing for somebody else to say that, but at the point that we have a benchmark that we can actually say, this is what we all mean when we say something is doing well, that's important. And for the people that are outside the practice of design, for the owners, the tenants, everybody else, we encourage Ali and the school to go to those people and talk to them about their buildings, their spaces, and work together as a community, almost as a district in some cases, in this case in Chicago, to look at a group of buildings that can function together to yield huge savings, give them the tools that allow them to assess their own spaces and their own buildings, and express it in terms that they can understand. So as Moisen said, it's not just kilowatt hours per year, it's the economics behind it. It's the value of people that use those spaces, the health, the sick days, everything else. We now get calls from insurance companies that talk to us about sick days and absenteeism because they're happy about the quality of air in the spaces and how it reduces claims. The health and welfare of the people that occupy those spaces are critical. As we move around the world, and we're lucky enough in our practice to do that in China, in Korea, in the Middle East, the density issues associated with migration is massive. In our country, in some cases, it's the opposite. In some cases, we're shrinking. But when we talk about density and we try to understand how we move people into spaces, move people into places, that relationship of understanding how to do that in a healthy way is very important. In Chengdu, for example, when we're asked to design for 100,000 people and we're given 7 square kilometers, we're happy to say that we can use 1 square kilometer instead of all 7 and save that land. And if you're going to save the land, the question is, why are you saving the land? What is the value of that, and what does it mean? Can you offset it? Can you utilize it otherwise to balance what it is you're doing in the built environment? And these are no small tasks, so we understand them in all the ways that Ali expresses in terms of analysis for wind and solar and all of those things. But some of the most important aspects of the analysis are programmatic. The programmatic analysis that affords you to build places for everyone, not just those who are necessarily professional, but in this particular case, farmers who occupied the land originally, and how do they play a role? In this particular case, we talked to the client specifically about the culture of family in China to afford places and units that could keep the family together, because the grandparents have a role, the parents have a role, the children have a role. So the social sustainability of it is critically important. And so the analysis and the research should address all of these things. And maybe it's not coming from a single school, as Moisen said. Maybe it's coming from all the schools at Harvard. And I think this is important. And it's especially important to us in our practice, because on the one hand, while we're very important about the family structure, depending on where we go, sometimes we get asked to do things that are unbelievable. Sometimes we get asked to do buildings that are the tallest in the world. And those are challenges that don't come along every day. But when we do get those requests, and they are real, we have to work harder to understand how we can do something like that better. And I look forward to working with Ali and Harvard in assessing some of these issues in our practice. We get questions like this all the time. In fact, right now, we probably have 3 or 4 of the top 10 super tall buildings in our practice. At the same time, we have very small buildings too, but these guys get a lot of attention. The analysis of how to make these buildings work or leverage these buildings is critical. We're currently looking at how to generate power through these buildings, how to mine the air at the higher levels of these buildings to cool them down. The concrete is critical. The steel is critical, obviously. But one of the most important things that we're doing now is we're going to publish a book, as we did 3 years ago, on the next generation of study that we're doing, which is based on residential typologies and the embedded carbon, life cycle embedded carbon of those typologies. We're doing a study from 210 stories all the way down to single-family homes. We're using it in the Midwest because that's where we're from, but it needs to be applied regionally and culturally to understand what is the embedded carbon of these typologies, where does it sit, how do you offset it, what is the operational characteristics of it, and how do you use the land, and how do you measure the value of sustainability across the land use that is either saved, occupied, reused, and so on. The life cycle carbon content is critical. We apply this to every project that we do. I know Ali will do the same in Seoul, Korea, and we just finished the FKI headquarters, 50 stories. You mentioned the cost of buildings. I will tell you that the myth of sustainability as an expense needs to stop. If it is done properly and you consider it as an integral process, there is no additional expense for having a highly sustainable building. In this particular case, this building cost 1/3 of what the client thought. Masdar headquarters, which was the first project I showed you, costs the same as a US suburban post office per square foot. There's no difference. It's just a matter of how you get into it. And Renzo Piano said last night that you can sit on the periphery or you can get to the center. And I think with this practice and this research, you are getting to the center of how to get buildings made, get buildings designed, and be successful. I know I only have a couple more minutes, but in this particular case, the policy that afforded this building to happen in Seoul was an incentive where up to 8 times of the energy that's created from the power is turned back to the client. So there are ways to work different solutions from all different aspects. I will leave you with just a couple of statements. I want to thank Ali for what you're doing and congratulate you for this center. I look forward to working with all of you on this. And I think for the students, you are now at an intersection in your lives with this kind of research that will change your practice forever. Thank you very much.